I'm Rob, and today we're at the Cricketers Arms in Eastleigh, and we've got to walk around an old estate. We're going to go around Country Park and see some very small locos, so come with me. So the Cricketers started life as a farm. It was called Yew Tree Farm in the village of Middle Stoneham. It was farmed by a tenant farmer called Charles Donnell. In 1845, however, it was converted to a pub, and the first landlord was John Cox. That's a very familiar name in this area. There was a Cox, a greengrocer, and the postmaster was a Cox at one time. Anyway, they extended the pub after 1845. They extended it into the farm cottages, which are at this end, and it's now a very nice watering hole and food outlet. So at the back of the pub you can still see some of the farm outbuildings, and even over there all date back to the times of Mr. Darnell the farmer. So there's some lovely old cottages left. As I say, it was known as Middle Stoneham. So lovely terrace of cottages. As I say, part of the Stoneham estate, and it was called Middle Stoneham, which is a really odd name if you think about it, because Middle Stoneham is actually north of North Stoneham and South Stoneham. So how it was Middle Stoneham, goodness knows. Anyway, this was the old Cricks Hill. Great fun coming down here on a bike. But we're off up these steps towards Avenue Park. So we're walking up Cricketers Hill, Cricks Hill as we call it, in Chestnut Avenue. So almost at the top of the hill, across the other side of the road, got to keep your eyes peeled. There's a wrought iron gate, and this takes us into Avenue Park, and beware, cattle are grazing. So carry on straight ahead on the beaten path. And there's a hidden secret in this, which is a Lancelot capability brown landscaped environment. So you can see the building we're looking for. It looks like a little bungalow from here. And we'll make our way towards it, and all will be revealed as to what it is. Now there is another entrance in, but because of the building they've blocked it off at the moment. But when they finish you'll be able to use that again instead of going up the hill, just cross the road. So this is the North Stoneham War Shrine. It was erected in 1918 in memory of 36 local men that died in World War I. It used to be a bit dilapidated, but it was refurbished in 2011. And that was put up by John Willis Fleming, who was the owner of the North Stoneham estate, and part of its reason for being put up is his son Richard actually died in the First World War too, so commemorates not only the 36 men that had fallen but his son. So having seen the shrine, we're going to now walk through Avenue Park and enjoy the overgrown capability brown landscape. Now this is Avenue Pond. Unfortunately you can't go in there, it's private. It's the Eastleigh District Angling Club that run this. Didn't stop us as kids, but it does now. So we've done the shrine up there, detoured off to see Avenue Pond. Now we're going to continue through the parkland. And we emerge out of the park. Good grief, they used to name roads after notable local people, They've named this one after the developer. Anyway, we continue the grass verge, and just before the traffic lights will turn left to walk down the peaceful track with the tractor in it that leads us to Home Wood. So we're passing allotments to the right and starting to get into the wood. Well, there are fairies that live in the woods then. So first major junction you come to in the woods, take a left-hand turn, and we're going down this way. Nice to see the Forestry Commission still looking after the place. Those butterflies chasing each other, if you can see them. Anyway, we carry on straight forward. Morning! If I appear mucky in a minute, this will be the reason why. I hope my balance is up to what it was. Ye gods, that was a sticky bit. Got out of it relatively unscathed. Bit of a squirt up the back of the leg. Otherwise, fine. So continue along the path. So bear in mind that mud we picked our way through, nay, that bog we picked our way through, there is an alternate route. Instead of turning left at that first junction, which brings you onto this path, you could carry on straight up, and then eventually there's another major path to your left, and just turn left and it'll bring you out where this path ends up. That's some big boys. So I've got a bit of a den going on here. I don't fancy that for keeping me dry if it started raining though. So a bit of a T-junction here. There's a right and there's a left, and we go left. So another T-junction, a left and a right. Now if you'd taken my advice and avoided the bog, you'd have turned left at the next major path and you'd be coming down this path, in which case you just follow straight on, and I'm going to turn left. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend that path we've just done. It's not been particularly wet, but it's boggy as heck, and trying to balance beam over those logs is a bit hairy to say the least. So as you start to emerge from the woods, over on the left is more North Stoneham Park, and take a good look at that, because that is going to be houses too. No end to the wrecking of this park, and this park is over 1,000 years old. It was given by Athelstan in the year 932 to Hyde Abbey in Winchester, and it's covered over 1,000 acres of woodland fields, and as I say, Eastleigh Borough Council had no regard to the heritage, not even the capability brown heritage, by planning all this housing. So we come out of the woods, and down here you've got Park Pond and Shrubbery Pond, but unfortunately that's private, so you can't go there. So shame about Park Pond and Shrubbery Pond, it's all Eastleigh District Angling Club, all private, can't go in there, shame. But anyway, we turn left, heading down to enjoy the beautiful parkland on the left, which has now been turfed up for houses. Well, there's the walled garden for the park, and the mansion used to be up behind there. So we don't want to go down this new bit, we'll stick to the old gravel track. So that's the other side of the walled garden now. So we've got some worrying news for someone. So down that path there, that would lead you back to Avenue Park. Used to be nice countryside that overlooked Eastleigh and the Itchen Valley. Now it's just houses, a few trees on a bit of grass, open space really. So the parkland, it passed from Athelston to Hyde Abbey, and then through a series of Earls of Southampton that seemed to own everything. Finally to Sir Thomas Fleming in 1599. Now, there was built a mansion a little bit later on, still the Willis Fleming family. And this building here was the coach house and the stables for that mansion. It later became a farm that was farmed by the Smith family, but now it's scheduled to be redeveloped in some way. Whether that's going to come down or whether they're going to build on it, I don't know. So Sir Thomas Fleming was the MP for Hampshire. He was also a High Court judge. Now he was presiding over one very, very high profile trial, and it was the trial of one Guy Fawkes for the gunpowder plot. Eastleigh's claim to fame, apart from Benny Hill. So we carry on down the track and we're heading towards St Nicolas Church. So, through the gate. And through the kissing gate into the churchyard. So here we are at St Nicolas Church, and as you notice up on the tower is a one-handed clock. Now I'll tell you about one-handed clocks. One-handed clock that you saw up there, that was put up in the 17th century. Now the reason it's a one-handed clock and not a two-handed clock is because pendulums at that point in history hadn't been invented, and a pendulum on a clock is the thing that keeps it accurate. That particular clock is a lever escarpment, so it's run by pulleys and cogs and things, and they're notoriously unreliable. They can lose about a quarter of an hour a day, so having two hands would just be pointless really, because it would always be wrong. So there's been a church on this site for about 1,000 years. The earliest one would have been a Saxon chapel. And then this one would have been built in the 13th century, but then in the 16th century it was rebuilt again. Interesting story is the Purbeck stonework that you can see, this actually comes from another church. Southampton at the time was having trouble with the French. They were raiding it every other day basically, and they were able to raid it because there was a very good point of navigation that they could hook onto, so know where Southampton was, to actually go in there and raid them, and that was the spire of St Mary's Church in Southampton. So the residents of Southampton decided that they could do without the church, and that they pulled it down stone by stone. Now stone being quite a valuable commodity, it was readily scooped up by the people here and used to rebuild this church in the 16th century. So the last person to have a hand in reorganising and refurbishing the church was in 1820 when one Thomas Hopper made some alterations, and since then it's remained about the same, and there are some very old engravings and things in the wall which I'll show you now. We've got Roman numerals II and IV, so 2 and 4. What it means I don't know. I don't expect it to be open. It's a lovely church inside, but if it is, we'll have a look. If not, we'll go around and have a look outside. unfortunately it's locked. So around the back of the church there's been a bit of alteration. Looks like there's a chalet style holiday let there. Bookings available for August. I know somewhere in the graveyard there's some graves to some Venetian sailors that used to ply their trade in the very, very olden days. So I remember as a kid coming round here, playing in the woods and fields and the churchyard. And this we used to believe was the Grey Lady's grave. The Grey Lady's local legend about a Grey Lady, a ghost, that used to be seen frequently on the old Stoneham Lane, which is just in front of the church here. One girl I know, Sue Miller, you know who you are if you ever see this video. She claimed her sister saw the Grey Lady on the top deck of the 48 bus, but that's a bit dubious, I think. Sue, put me right if I'm wrong. I think whoever was in there has had enough of all the new development around here. Look, he's got up and left. So we've got a proper old-fashioned lich gate here, and as you may have seen in some of my other videos, what a lich gate is, it allowed the, this one's from 1909 by the looks of it, it allowed the pallbearers to lay the coffins down and rest their shoulders until the vicar got there to conduct the service, and it was somewhere nice and dry and reasonably sheltered for them as well. Although must be very short coffins. That's sort of balanced it on that middle bit. That could have nasty consequences. Anyway, let's say goodbye to St Nicolas Church and head on with the walk. So we come out onto Stoneham Lane and we turn left. So careful of this bit, because occasionally you get the odd car down here. So these are the gates to the old rectory, which has been offices for many years now, but another local legend has it that from the old rectory, under the hump in the road out there by the Lich Gate, there was a tunnel that ran through to the church. Now whether that's true, whether that's not, who knows. Local legend, a bit like the Grey Lady. So Stoneham Lane now continues up there towards that awful new estate. I'm sure it's very nice, I just get upset that it's there, basically. It is quite nice, but not right. But anyway, we continue down here on the cycleway, and as you can see by the white lines, this was the old Stoneham Lane. Now, it used to bend round, and the top of the bus used to hit the trees. Clatter, clatter, clatter. So I continue down the old Stoneham Lane. There's some of the offices that are in the old rectory. And this brings us out to Doncaster Drove. Now, every part of this walk we've done is on the old North Stoneham estate. That's how big it was. But we continue to be on the old North Stoneham estate when we go across into Doncaster Drove and into the Lakeside Country Park. So that in the distance is the Concord Club and the Mouldy Fig restaurant. And once upon a time that used to be a school. So we cross over, there's a ford over the Monk's Brook, not through the Monk's Brook, and a bridge over the Monk's Brook. I don't get any ideas of using the ford if you're in a car, because there's a big barrier that side. This area of Monk's Brook used to be called Green Grove. So Doncaster Drove, that used to go all the way from Stoneham Lane across where the airport is now to the farm that's on the banks of the River Itch in the far side. They used to go under the railway through an arch which is now bricked up. But anyway, we're going to go left up this gravel path to go into Eastleigh Lakeside, which was set up sometime in the early 90s, having formerly been a tree nursery for Hillier's Nurseries. So there used to be rows and rows of apple trees, cherry trees, all sorts of ornamental trees. So we're going to cut down here, go and take a look at the lakes. So there's picnic benches, and it's all very pleasant round here. This is one thing that Eastleigh Borough Council did that is nice. So nurseries were great for playing in as a kid, but not strictly legal, it was trespassing. But after the motorway was built, the M27 motorway, they took a lot of gravel out of this field and left a load of holes. So those holes were flooded, formed lakes, and the whole area turned over into a country park. And it is quite beautiful now. Let me show you. That's just one of the lakes. So newts wrap their eggs in a leaf to protect them from predators. Yeah, great crested grebe do a beautiful courtship dance at the beginning of each spring season. And more picnic benches. So go left down the middle of the lakes and just wander really. Hello mate.
Oh bud, how are you?
Oh, not so bad. So good fishing here, is it?
Yeah, not bad at all, bud. The old Lakeside complex and Eastleigh Angling Club control it.
Oh, Eastleigh Angling Club control it?
Eastleigh Angling, yeah. It's been here for about 20-25 years. Ever since they built the M27.
Yeah.
They dug the gravel out. And we put tench, roach, carp, rudd, perch, pike, various shellcores fishing in. And I think the carp got to about £37.
Really? Big old carp then?
Yeah, it's a big old mirror. But there's a few good common in here, touching 30.
Oh, great.
If not over, and then say loads of bream and tench.
Yeah, so better fishing than the old ponds that are over on Stoneham Park there?
I'd say they're equal to it.
Equal
I'd say
to
it's
it.
got bigger fish, but I think Stoneham's a bit, I wouldn't say it's pretty as it used to be, but there's, it's good fishing and both really quite equal, I'd say. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, thanks very much, mate, and enjoy your fishing and good luck. Hope you catch one.
You take care, mate.
Cheers, bye-bye. It's quite a big water sports complex and picnic stuff. Over here. So we walk back up through the complex of buildings, no toilets, and into the car park. We're going to have a look at the railway. So head down through the car park. That building at the far end is Eastleigh Lakeside Railway Station. More in a minute. So Eastleigh Lakeside Railway Station. Lovely day out for the kids. It's got a cafe, lots and lots of engines, diesel ones and steam engines. I don't think there'll be any out today, but we'll have a look. A couple of lovely little engines out for refurb. As you would expect, being Eastleigh, quite substantial sidings and a turntable. So Eastleigh Parkway, let's go follow the line, see where it goes. It's So we leave Doncaster Drove just past the station and we turn left to follow the railway lines along. That's this little twin track railway. Sidings coming off, loops. So walk with me round the bend. So I've just noticed the rail's got a third rail running through. On the southern region trains that carries electricity through to run the trains, but I don't think that's the case here. I wanted to talk to a chappie at the station, but he politely declined. He could have told me, but I assume maybe, put me right if I'm wrong, that it's to run a different couple of gauges maybe. One slightly narrower gauge than the other. Don't know. They've even got a little tunnel on this railway, lovely little railway. So there's the other end of the tunnel, overlooking the lakes, and we're approaching Monksbrook Halt. So this is Monksbrook Halt, where the trains turn around at the far end of the country park. A bit of a loop and they go back the other way. So we exit Country Park through the Kissing Gate. Little play park there. Monk's Way over in the background. We take the path to the left. So we follow this. This is a new bit of open land actually. It's in recompense for building all over North Stoneham Park. I suppose it's a small something. So this land originally was Frith's farm, and he used to keep chickens. My sister used to have a job collecting the eggs, which she would then give to me. Morning. Or afternoon, whatever.
Yeah, afternoon, yeah.
And on we go. And it looks like this new path brings us out onto Stoneham Lane. Back over the Monksbrook again. Anyway, at the end of the path here, we're going to turn right into Stoneham Lane. I think we're going to have to cross the road because there's not a pavement. We are. So we'll cross the road and take the pavement on the other side and go right. So we're going to go round the roundabout, crossing over. So at the Kingdom Hall of the Jehovah's Witnesses there's a crossing, and we're going to cross over. Now that used to be the old Green Hut nursery, obviously before they rebuilt it, because it was green corrugated iron in the old days. Anyway, crossing over the road. So back into the village of Middle Stoneham again. Now that cottage never used to be there, that's not as old as it looks, but I'll show you some that have always been there. So this is the old blacksmith's cottage, and the bit next to it is the forge, and there used to be a split door there, and many a time as a kid I'd come by and the top door would be open and the blacksmith would hang out, and he'd say, "Nipper, go and get me some pliers, number 10 or whatever, and you can keep the change for sweets." So I'd beetle off to the Wavy Line, Monksbrook stores, and I'd buy his fags and use the change for sweeties. Well, I think it was Mr. Hallett was the shop owner at the time. And in here, where the newish 90s houses are, that used to be a sawmill. I think that was owned by Frith as well. No, I guess maybe Keeper's Cottage is where the old gamekeeper for the estate lived. Who knows, very pretty though. One next door is the old post cottage, and that was the Coxes lived in there for a long time. Mr. Cox the postmaster, then there was the Coxes that ran the greengrocers, and a girl I went to school with was brought up there too. I don't know whether they still live there, the Cox family. Did for many years though. So that's about it for Middle Stoneham, the village that time forgot. But even people that live here don't know that it was called that. and the incomprehensible name because it's north of North Stoneham, yet it's Middle Stoneham. So walk back up the old Chestnut Avenue towards the cricketers. So that was a nice short 4-mile walk. Lovely walk. As you can tell, I don't like the building, but then I grew up in this area and I remember what it was. But it's still a lovely area. The housing is nice too, just not what it was. But anyhow, we're back at the cracks. It's been about 4 miles, give or take. If you enjoyed the walk, then please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.